revealed how firing their key employee led to a touching transformation for 200 lives. Amazing! In the heart of Maplewood, Sarah's Diner was more than just a place to eat. It was a sanctuary where laughter filled the air, and the smell of fresh coffee mingled with the sweetness of pancakes on the griddle. It was where every birthday was celebrated, every heartbreak shared, and every day started anew. But one chilly morning, the warmth of that diner shattered like glass. Sarah, beloved by all, was suddenly fired, tossed aside by corporate owners who saw numbers instead of faces. The news hit the town like a thunderclap. Regulars, those familiar faces who gathered at her counters for meals and memories, were stricken with disbelief. In that moment, something shifted deep within Maplewood. James, a disabled veteran who found his peace in Sarah's smile and stories of courage, clenched his fists at the bar. She was family, he shouted, the fire in his voice igniting the others seated around. They were more than just patrons, they were a community, and they stood united in their fury. The diner was where they turned for comfort, and they would not accept this loss without a fight. Tears filled the eyes of the children who considered Sarah a second mother. They created cards during recess, each scribble telling the world how much they missed her comforting presence. "We need to bring her back," whispered young Lily, clutching her drawing of a smiling Sarah surrounded by hearts. The message spread like wildfire. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The community gathered at Town Hall, a swirling mass of heart and determination. They spoke passionately about what Sarah meant to them, each voice adding to the symphony of discontent. "This isn't just about a diner," an old man said, shaking with emotion. "It's about the connection, the warmth that we felt when we walked in." His words hit home, and a ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. They launched fake sales, each cake a symbol of their resilience, and shared heart-touching posts online about Sarah's unwavering spirit. But corporate greed fought back with cold indifference, turning a warm haven into a bleak battleground. Each day, the laughter faded, replaced by a sterile silence as the new management stripped away the very essence of the diner. The familiar clinks of dishes and joyful chatter gave way to a stark atmosphere drenched in efficiency. It felt wrong. As tensions escalated and hearts grew heavy, the townspeople stood on the brink of a decision. They had fought hard, but would it be enough? And just when hope seemed lost, a whisper of Sarah's impact emerged, highlighting her role as the heart of Maplewood. The community felt a flicker of light. Could they harness that spark to create something more significant? In a twist that surprised everyone, Sarah reappeared one foggy morning, standing at the diner's entrance. Hope hung in the air, waiting to be kindled. The community, now on the brink of rekindling what was lost, waited with bated breath. Would they reclaim their beloved diner, or would they allow the shadows of corporate greed to snuff out the light of community? The answer loomed like the steam billowing from the coffee pot, thick and heavy, as anticipation crackled around them. The morning mist clung to the streets of Maplewood as Sarah stepped forward, her familiar figure sending ripples of disbelief and joy through the gathered crowd. Faces that once bore the weight of loss now sparked with a mix of hope and excitement. People whispered, exchanging glances filled with questions. Was she back for good? James, still clenched at the bar, broke through the murmurs. "Sarah," he called, stepping closer, his voice steady. "You came back." His eyes gleamed with tears as he took in the sight of her, slightly worn but undeniably resilient. She offered a smile, the kind that made everything feel right again, even if just for a moment. Unexpectedly, the diner door swung open and the unmistakable aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted out, like a magnetic call to everyone present. It stirred the nostalgic memories from forgotten corners of their hearts. One by one, townsfolk turned, drawn toward her presence as if she was the sun breaking through long-standing clouds. "Sarah!" A cry came from Lily, the little girl with her hand-painted card still gripped in her fingers. She darted towards Sarah, bursting with uncontained joy. "You're back. You're really back." The innocence in her voice cut through the tension, binding hearts with the simple truth that Sarah meant everything to them. As the children swarmed, their laughter lifted the heavy air, and Sarah knelt down to share in their excitement. "I missed you all so much," she said, her voice warm but edged with uncertainty. She looked up to see familiar faces beaming back at her. Yet somewhere deep inside, there was a flicker of dread. Had the corporate powers that had dismissed her really been put to rest? Or was this reunion just a brief respite before a storm? Standing back, James watched as Sarah embraced every child, each hug vibrant with love but bittersweet with the reality that they might need to fight again. As she straightened up, the crowd pressed closer in a circle, eager to hear what she would say next. "They thought they could take me away, that they could erase what we have," she began, her voice gathering strength, igniting hope. "But I know now that this place is more than just a diner. It's us, it's a family." Cheers erupted as Sarah spoke, her presence acting like a spark, igniting the faith that had been waning. The townsfolk rallied around her, a stubborn resolve brewing in their hearts. They remembered the laughter, the stories, and the memories they had built together under her care, and they were not going to let that be taken from them again. "I want to gather all of you," Sarah continued, glancing around, her eyes locking on each face, "and plan how we can fight for our diner. Together. Because we deserve a place that feels like home." Excitement swelled, and for a moment, the morning sun broke through the clouds, lighting up their determination. But just as quickly, a shadow flickered across the crowd, a low rumble of discontent from those still aligned with corporate interests. Suddenly, one figure stepped forward, towering over the crowd, a corporate suit crisp and out of place. "This isn't your decision to make, Sarah," he said sharply, the words sharp enough to slice through the fragile atmosphere they had just built. The crowd tensed, a worry washing over them. Would they truly have to face this monster again? The challenges ahead were daunting, but Sarah, with her heart full and fierce, simply lifted her chin. "We'll see about that," she declared, fire igniting in her eyes. The struggle for the diner had just begun, but now, more than ever, they were ready to fight not just for the diner, but for the very fabric of their community. The question loomed heavy. Would their love and unity be enough to stand against the corporate machinery ready to swallow them whole? The air grew thick with tension as the corporate figure straightened his tie, scanning the crowd with a smirk that dismissed their hope. "You think people care about a diner in the grand scheme? This is business. Your little family here," he waved his hand as if to shoo them away, "isn't enough to fight a corporation." Sarah felt a surge of anger ripple through her, but she maintained her resolve. "You don't know what we have here," she shot back, her voice unwavering. "We're not just a diner. We're a community. You can't take that from us." As her words hung in the air, a murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. They clenched hands together, amplifying their united front. James moved to Sarah's side, filled with determination. "We'll show you just how strong we are. Just watch." The corporate suit scoffed, yet something flickered in his eyes. Dismissive as he was, he could see the truth in their unity. But checkmate wasn't far from the corporate game, and he knew it. "This isn't over," he said before turning sharply, his expensive shoes tapping loudly against the pavement as he walked away, leaving an intense silence in his wake. Feeling emboldened, Sarah shifted her focus back to the faces around her. Each expression reflected a blend of fear and defiance. "We can gather support. We'll reach out to those who care about us. It's time we show them that Maplewood means more than profit margins." Lily tugged at Sarah's sleeve, her little face bright. "Can we make signs and shout really loud?" She bounced on her toes, her enthusiasm infectious. Sarah laughed, her heart lifting with the child's eagerness. "Exactly, Lily. We'll gather ideas, plan our rally. We're not just going to fight for the diner. We're fighting for every story lived here, for the laughter shared, and for the memories that can't be wiped away with a closing sign. A chorus of yes erupted, giving life to the idea. Sarah could feel the heat of determination growing, ready to tackle whatever came next. As plans set into motion, people began to drift toward the diner, eager to brainstorm ideas and sketches for their signs. The diner was more than a place to eat. It was a canvas for their dreams and fears, their laughter and tears. This was their beloved home, and they would protect it with everything they had. Hours passed, the sun hovering above them with golden warmth, and Sarah moved among the tables where everyone was gathered. She overheard snippets of conversations, heartwarming comments, laughter, and rekindled hope. But then the atmosphere shifted again as the door swung open. The corporate figure was back, this time accompanied by several intimidating figures in dark suits. Their presence felt heavy, a cloud overshadowing the spark of determination that had ignited among the townsfolk. "Let us finish this," he said, the corners of his mouth curling into a cruel smile. "I'm here to discuss your little ideas, and I think it's time for a reality check." With dread wrapping around her heart, Sarah caught James' eye. He nodded, silently telling her they would face this together. The tension built, threatening to explode. But amidst the fear, one thought rang clear in Sarah's heart: everything was at stake. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the unwavering love of her community. This was the moment of truth. Would their courage and unity be enough to stand up against the corporate powers once more? Or would fear silence their voices just as it had before? The stakes were never higher. The corporate figure adjusted his cufflinks, surveying the room with an air of superiority. The crowd was on edge, whispers of fear and determination weaving through the air like the swaying light above them. Sarah felt the weight of their collective gaze, bolstering her resolve. "You underestimate us," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor inside. "This isn't just a fight. It's our lives." They be swept aside, just like the rest, he sneered, his confidence unflinching. "I came here to offer you a chance, a buyout worth more than your little diner could ever earn." A ripple of disbelief passed through the crowd. Sarah stepped forward, clenching her fists. "And what about us? The stories, the memories, the community?" Her voice grew louder and heads turned. "You can put a price on buildings, but you can't buy what it means to us." Just as she finished, something shifted in the room. James stepped up beside her, a fierce look in his eyes. "This diner isn't just brick and mortar. It's our history, our laughter, our families. You want to take that away? You'll have to fight us first." Lily beamed with pride at her brother's words, and even the older patrons nodded with renewed vigor. Whispers of "we want tea back down," and "this isn't over," filled the air. It was as if a wall was rising behind them, fortifying their stands against the looming threat. Intrigued by the defiance in their tone, the corporate figure straightened, the smug smile faltering for just a moment. Yet he quickly masked it, returning to his persona of cold calculation. "Very well. But understand, you're playing a game far above your heads. I won tea, just take the diner. I'll take your will to fight. You'll see." With every word, Sarah felt her heart race harder. "You only think that's true because you haven't tasted what we've built here. We have something you can't touch." The crowd's anticipation was palpable. James raised his hand, and the voices quieted into a hush. "Tomorrow, we'll rally. We'll take our message to the people who matter. We'll show you just how powerful love and unity can be." "Good luck," the corporate man replied dismissively, waving his hand before turning to leave, his sharp suit brushing past the fading light. There was a sharp tension as the door swung shut behind him, sealing the room in silence once more, but it didn't stay silent for long. An elderly couple burst into applause, soon joined by others. The murmur swelled, embracing their own strength. Tomorrow, Sarah thought, the word echoing in her mind. Tomorrow will matter. As they began to organize, a sudden idea struck her. What if they made this rally a celebration of everything their diner represented? Let us not just protest. Let us invite the community to join us in a celebration of Maplewood. She shouted above the bustle. We'll share stories, food, and music. The crowd erupted, excitement transforming faces. "And we'll gather more voices. We'll reach out." Someone shouted, and another exclaimed, "A parade of unity, it'll be huge." Sarah's heart soared with hope, the fire of their determination flickering like the lights illuminating their beloved diner. This was more than a fight against a corporation, it was a testament to everything they believed in. But as the night wore on, the cloud of uncertainty still loomed in the background. Could they truly rally everyone? Could their voices resonate beyond the walls of Maplewood? Would their community answer the call? With those weighty questions hanging in the air, Sarah felt the mounting anxiety mix with excitement. Tomorrow would be their moment. But was it the moment they'd all been waiting for? Or would doubt creep in to silence their dreams once again? Only time would tell. The sun had barely kissed the horizon when Sarah arrived at the diner the next day. The familiar scent of coffee brewed strong in the air greeted her like an old friend. She looked around, taking in the cozy booths and the walls covered in photos of smiling faces, each one a memory woven into the fabric of their little town. This wasn't just a place to eat, it was a home for so many. "Are you ready for this?" James asked, joining her. His eyes sparkled with hope, but shadows of worry still clung to him. Sarah nodded, gripping a stack of flyers in her trembling hands. "More than ever," she replied, though inside, her stomach twisted in knots. She had to believe in their cause, in their strength as a community. Lily came bounding in, her laughter echoing against the diner walls, carrying that spark of youthful optimism. "I made signs," she announced, showing off the colorful, hand-painted boards. "They're going to be amazing." "Perfect," Sarah said, her heart swelling. "I can't wait to see everyone come together." As the morning rolled into the afternoon, the diner filled with the warmth of friends gathering. They decorated the space with string lights and vibrant banners bearing the message, "Save Maplewood." Each smile felt like a promise of vow to stand together against the corporate giant. Sarah looked out the window as more people streamed in, their faces reflecting determination. The buzz of chatter and laughter softened her anxiety, allowing hope to fill the room. But in the depths of her mind, doubts flickered. Were they enough? Would their voices really resonate with those outside? But the moment passed as the clock edged closer to noon. Just then, a horn blared outside. Sarah's heart raced. This was it. She pushed the door open and stepped out onto the pavement. The streets were filling with families and friends, carrying bowls of homemade food and instruments for music. The air was electric. As Sarah scanned the burgeoning crowd, she caught sight of Mr. Thompson, the retired mayor, walking toward them, cane in hand. "We're here to support you, Sarah," he called, grinning widely. "Maplewood wouldn't be the same without that diner." His words sent a swell of pride coursing through her. They weren't just fighting for a diner, they were fighting for their very way of life. The moment was palpable, a shared understanding that swept through the group as they began to chant and cheer. With the crowd gathered, James took a deep breath and asked everyone to quiet down. "This isn't just about us," he said, looking around. "This is about everyone who's ever stepped foot in here. Let us celebrate what we have and show them that they can't take it away." The roar of applause erupted in response. Sarah stood at the front, looking at all the faces that reflected her own passion. They began to share stories, laughter echoing through Maplewood, fueling their resolve. The diner transformed into a stage of unity, where each sentiment lifted spirits higher, but just as the enthusiasm peaked, a low rumble echoed from the street. Sarah's heart sank. The corporate figure had sent representatives, slick and polished, ready to dismantle their spirit. "Are you all ready for this?" she wondered, fear creeping in. The crowd quieted, staring at the impending threat. Just then, Lily squeezed her hand. The strength of her simple gesture broke through Sarah's wavering confidence. No matter what happened, they would face it together. "Let us show them what Maplewood can do," Sarah shouted, igniting the crowd once more. Yet, as the foreboding figures approached, a chilling question lingered in the air. Would unity be enough to fend off the looming storm? The representatives stepped forward, their polished smiles contrasting sharply with the gritty determination radiating from the crowd. The tall man in the sharp suit cleared his throat, and his voice sliced through the atmosphere. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not kid ourselves here. Maplewood Diner is a quaint little spot, but quaint isn't what keeps us coming back. A voice shouted from the crowd. It was Mrs. Bennet, a beloved teacher who spent decades shaping young minds in Maplewood. Her stance was firm, fists clenched, and the support behind her roared like thunder. Sarah felt a rush of pride. This was it, the heart and soul of their community standing strong. But the representative waved dismissively. This town can't compete with our industry, don't you dare underestimate us. James shouted back, stepping forward, his voice rising above the din. He held up one of the colorful signs made by Lily, its bold letters proclaiming Save Maplewood. The crowd cheered, their purchases of potluck food and laughter hanging thick in the air. As questions flew from the crowd, why can't we coexist? What about the jobs you'd take away? The corporate rep stood there, eyes darting nervously. They were losing control. Sarah felt a surge of bravery. She raised her arm to quiet the crowd. We aren't asking for much. Just the right to thrive as a community. The identity of Maplewood isn't just about the diner, it's about the families, the friendships, and the memories. The crowd erupted again, and she took a moment to breathe, searching for words that could cut through corporate ice. We've shared holidays here. This diner is where we celebrated birthdays and made new friends. You want to take that away? Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his cane tapping against the pavement with every step. You're correct, Sarah. We came here decades ago because we believed in building roots, in community and trust. It's woven into every meal shared at this diner. You may have been paying attention to profits, but we're fighting for our lives. The representatives exchanged glances, unsure how to handle the emotional intensity building around them. They hadn't expected this kind of fight. The lead rep started, but Mrs. Bennet interrupted him. Let us face it. Maplewood isn't just a diner. It's a sanctuary for laughter, a refuge in hard times. It holds the tears of loss and the joy of triumph. Can you say that about your cold, corporate world? A hush fell over the gathering as the crowd absorbed the truth of her words, and Sarah felt hope rising in her chest like warm sunlight. Their strength was infectious. But in the back of her mind, doubts began to creep in again. Were they really making a difference? And what if they weren't enough? Just then, a little voice piped up from the back. It was Lily. We can make them see how much we love this place. Let us show them. The crowd erupted with renewed energy, cheers echoing through the streets. Sarah couldn't fight back the grin spreading across her face. They would fight together, yet beneath it all, a persistent shiver of worry drilled deep into her thoughts. Could they persuade the corporate folks? Or were they simply wasting their breath? Let us get our voices heard. Sarah shouted, raising her fists to punctuate each word, feeling the community rallying behind her again. The day was far from over, but as the representatives steeled themselves amidst the celebratory chaos, one thought remained. Would they summon the courage to truly listen? As the crowd rallied for their cause, Sarah couldn't shake one lingering concern. What sacrifices were they willing to make to protect their home? The energy surged through the crowd like electricity. Every cheer felt like a pulse, resonating with Sarah's heartbeat. Around her, people grasped hands, exchanged nods, and shared silent agreements this was their moment. But as their voices climbed higher, Sarah's thoughts spiraled wilder. What would happen if they failed? She could almost see the diner shuttered, a for sale sign draped across the windows, the laughter replaced with echoes of disappointment. That image clenched her stomach painfully. Enough talk. Mr. Thompson shouted, cutting through her anxious reverie. Let us show them what Maplewood really means. The crowd roared in response, chanting the diner's name, their fierce devotion spiraling out of control. Sarah felt the swell of collective passion, and it tethered her fear, giving her the courage to step forward yet again. We know our worth, she bellowed, gripping the mic tightly. But it's not just our love for the diner that matters. It's about standing for each other. Around her, supportive nods turned into a wave of agreement. People shared how Maplewood had been there through their toughest moments, how it cradled both celebrations and sorrows. A young couple clutched their baby, whispering how they hoped he'd grow up in the same hometown that nurtured them. They were a part of something greater, a tapestry woven with years of stories, but just as momentum surged forward, a deeper voice broke through the din this time, from the far side of the representatives. It was the woman, eyes narrowing as she stepped forward. You keep talking about community, but how does that translate to your survival? Sentiment 1T pay the bills. Gasping, Sarah felt the collective tension in the crowd. That uncomfortable silence settled like a heavy fog, drifting in to curtain their joy. The woman was right, lovely memories and heartfelt connections wouldn't stop a corporation cold. Maybe, Sarah finally said, her voice soft but steady. But what if we propose a collaborative approach? The murmurs swirled around her. What if we find a way to honor this diner while also embracing growth that doesn't destroy what we have? We can create something new, something special that blends our world with yours. The corporate representatives exchanged glances, touched with the slightest hint of intrigue. Compromise can be a route worth exploring, Mr. Thompson added, his seasoned voice steady. We're not against change. We want to be a part of it. But it has to reflect what makes Maplewood, Maplewood. Sarah held her breath as whispers darted back and forth like spark flames among the gathered crowd. Did they dare to dream? Could their love for this diner become a bridge rather than a wall? Hope fluttered in her chest, but she still felt the weight of doubt. What if the odds were stacked too high? What if the corporate world was too indifferent to care? Then, a decisive nod from Lily sparked fire anew. We have to put our hearts into it, she shouted, her small body thrusting a sign high above her head. Save Maplewood together. The cheer that followed was deafening, the unity stirring something deep within the crowd. Sarah's heart swelled with possibilities. They might still have a chance. The representatives stood firm, taking in the passionate faces surrounding them. Their polished demeanors were cracking, revealing a hint of vulnerability. Let us start this conversation, one of them finally murmured, the gleam in their eye betraying the stiff exterior. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a step one each side hadn't anticipated. As the crowd released another wave of cheers, Sarah's mind raced ahead. Together, they could craft this new vision, but the road wouldn't be easy, and just as she felt that glimmer of hope revive within her, the realization hit: both sides would need to step outside their comfort zones. It wouldn't just take passion, it would demand compromise, trust, and a willingness to listen to the other. Was their beloved diner worth the sacrifices they might have to make? As uncertainty loomed like dark clouds on the horizon, Sarah found herself teetering on the edge of possibility, her heart pounding for what came next. How deep was their resolve to save their home, and what price were they truly willing to pay? The conversation began with uncertainty hanging in the air like a barely there thread. Sarah felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders as she scanned the faces in the crowd. They were filled with a mix of hope and apprehension, mirroring her own feelings. Mr. Thompson gripped the side of the podium, his determination showing through the wrinkles on his forehead. One of the representatives, a wiry man with glasses perched precariously at the end of his nose, stepped forward. So, you're suggesting a partnership? He asked, his brow furrowed. A blend of community values with our business strategy? His skepticism clashed with his curiosity, and Sarah could sense the crowd quieting in anticipation. Yes, Sarah exclaimed, her voice infused with a new urgency. We want a diner that serves not just food, but community. Imagine a place where local farmers can showcase their produce on our menu, or a space where local artists can exhibit their work. We can be a hub, a beacon of what Maplewood stands for. The representatives exchanged glances again. Sarah watched them closely, looking for signs of agreement, but also aware that the foundations of their old worlds were crumbling, and this was a test, a challenge to shift their perspectives. Then the woman who had questioned them earlier spoke again. This sounds nice in theory. But how do you plan to fund this hub? Ideas need resources. She placed her hands on her hips, waiting for an answer. That same, heavy silence fell once more, but Sarah refused to wither under pressure. What if we organize fundraisers? Get our community to pitch in with time and money? We've already seen how people are willing to fight for Maplewood. Just look around you. The tide began to churn, excitement rippling through the crowd again. Sarah's heart raced as people began to respond, sharing their own fundraising ideas. Raffles, bake sales, concerts, the concept sparked like fireworks in their minds. Suddenly, an older woman stepped forward, her voice resonating with authority that demanded silence. "I have an idea," she shouted, catching everyone's attention. "My late husband ran a local car repair shop. He always believed in giving back. I'll donate the profits from my next month's sales." That's a start. Cheers erupted as the crowd radiated their support. Sarah felt a surge of pride. One person's gesture ballooned into hope for many, spark igniting to a flame. Mr. Thompson nodded appreciatively, and the representatives began taking notes, their stiff demeanor softening. But just as spirits began to lift, the woman raised a cautionary hand. "It sounds noble, but are you really willing to risk your comfort? This needs people to step up, to put in long hours and hard work. Not just dreams, real sacrifices. Are you ready for that level of commitment?" Sarah felt her stomach drop. The woman's words were a bitter pill, a reality check that no one could shy away from. What if it means working nights or weekends? What if you struggle with this idea? What if we need to share our space, our time, everything? The crowd quieted, contemplating the weight of the question. Sarah's heart thundered as she absorbed their faces, some contemplative, others questioning. No one said this would be easy. "But you all know what Maplewood means. It's our lifeblood," she implored, drawing courage from their unified energy. "This diner is our home, our legacy, and it deserves to thrive. So, who's with me?" One by one, hands began to rise. Their eyes lit with determination, igniting something fierce in their collective spirit. The conversation morphed from concerns to ideas, anxieties to actionable plans. Together, they formed committees, and soon the representatives scribbled furiously, requesting more details and recommendations. Sarah could barely keep up with the whirlwind of discussions around her. As the sun sank lower, casting a warm glow on the diner, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of camaraderie, a flicker of family among them that repelled the shadows of uncertainty. Yet, as exhilaration bubbled and possibilities swarmed, doubt still lingered, whispering in her mind. What if their combined efforts weren't enough? What if they couldn't achieve the dreams they'd laid out? A sudden thought struck her, a lightning bolt of realization. Had they really considered the full spectrum of what this transformation would entail? Were they truly ready to take that leap of faith? With those questions dancing at the edge of her consciousness, the path ahead transformed into one of both great potential and daunting fear. What awaited them on this new journey as they battled to save Maplewood, and would the sacrifices demanded become the glue or the cracks of their beloved community? As darkness fell, the crowd's anticipation grew, ready to embrace whatever came next. In the depth of that uncertainty, Sarah could feel a new journey beginning to unfold. Would it lead them to victory, or would it unearth deeper divides? The next morning, the sun broke across Maplewood, casting a soft light through the diner's windows. Sarah woke to the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand. It was a message from Mr. Thompson. "Let's meet early at the diner." Intrigued, she quickly dressed and headed out, her heart fluttering with anticipation. When she arrived, the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The diner was empty, and the tables remained untouched from the previous night's excitement. Mr. Thompson was already there, his brow furrowed, but a light flickered in his eyes. "I've been thinking about our conversation," he said, his voice steady. "You sparked something. But it's going to take more than just community enthusiasm." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of his words. "I know. It has to be more than just talk." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "We need to start with a solid foundation. Let's talk about a budget, potential expenses, and who we can reach out to for support." As they laid the groundwork, Sarah felt her uncertainty creep back. She had an idea of how a community diner should look, but the practicalities were daunting. What if they couldn't raise enough funds? What if the local farmers didn't have enough produce to meet their demands? Doubts gnawed at her resolve. Just then, the sound of the bell over the diner door announced the arrival of a handful of locals. John, the high school principal, was the first to walk in, followed by Lucy, the the single mother who worked 2 jobs, and a few others who had rallied behind Sarah's vision. They looked uncertain but hopeful. "Did you hear about the supermarket closing down?" John asked. "It's such a loss for everyone. And now we need a place that will keep the spirit of Maplewood alive." His passion ignited something in the room, stirring the collected energy like a pot on the verge of boiling over. Lucy raised her hand. "I have 2 hours a week I can volunteer, and I can cook." Her voice was filled with determination, and the other locals began chiming in with their commitments, time, skills, ideas. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. Could this truly be happening? As they dove into discussions about meal offerings and community events, Sarah caught a glimpse of a new worry rising among them. Questions about their abilities began to surface. "What if we fail?" someone whispered. The room fell silent again, tension wrapping itself tightly around them. Having felt that same fear, Sarah took a step forward, her voice strong yet gentle. "We might stumble. We might fall. But together, we'll get back up. And that means something. If we're going to build this diner, we have to trust each other and ourselves. It's about resilience. It's about finding strength in our community, no matter what happens." Within those words, she felt a shift, a crack of light through the uncertainty. The group nodded, hope flickering in their eyes once more. Lunch was arranged for the next weekend. The volunteers started planning how they would prepare a meal for the community, fueled by local produce and shared labor. Sarah began jotting down tasks, her earlier doubts melting away as positivity began to fuel their actions. Later that day, Sarah received a call from an unexpected number. "Hi, this is Tom, the new owner of the old supermarket building. I heard about what you're planning. We might be able to work something out." Her heart leapt. Could this be the venue they needed? Could it open even more doors for Maplewood? As the conversation unfolded, excitement surged within her, but so did the voice of caution. What if it all crashed down? Still, determination burned bright in her chest. In these moments of uncertainty, she realized they were holding the threads of something big, a potential that couldn't be measured by money. Leaving her fears behind, she faced the dawning reality of their collective labor. At that moment, she couldn't shake the feeling that this journey had only just begun. How deep would their commitment run? Would the upcoming lunch be a true reflection of what they were ready to become? With every new challenge, doubts began to merge with the hope building in each heart. What awaited them next? Would their actions turn into tangible results, or were they setting themselves up for an even bigger heartache? The day of the community lunch arrived, a vibrant celebration of resilience and unity that blossomed under the warm sun. The once quiet streets of Maplewood buzzed with life as tables lined the sidewalks, draped in colorful tablecloths, adorned with flowers and hand-painted signs proclaiming, "Save Maplewood." Sarah stepped outside the diner, her heart swelling with pride. The aroma of fresh baked bread and the laughter of children filled the air. She felt that spark again, igniting hope in her chest. The community was here, ready to serve not just food, but love and support. As guests began to arrive, Sarah's eyes scanned the crowd. Familiar faces, teachers, families, friends mingled joyfully, each bringing their own dish to share. Homemade soups, salads bursting with local produce, and baked goods lined the tables, creating a feast that mirrored the heart of Maplewood itself. James stood close by, his beaming smile spreading warmth as he greeted every newcomer. "Can you believe this?" he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's incredible." But just as joy filled the atmosphere, the corporate figure appeared again, flanked by those same polished representatives. Their entrance felt like a storm cloud crossing the sun. Sarah felt the energy shift, but she squared her shoulders. This was their moment, and distractions wouldn't dim their light. The corporate man stepped forward, addressing the crowd with feigned bravado. "What a quaint little gathering you have here," he sneered, dismissing the palpable energy that surrounded them. "But let me remind you, these efforts are wasted. You think a meal changes anything?" At that moment, Sarah found her voice rising above the murmur of disbelief. "No one said this was just about a meal," she called out, stepping closer. "This is about the heartbeat of our community, about standing together and showing you that we won't be silenced." Her words resonated, igniting a roar of agreement from the crowd. Murmurs of yes, and we're together, rippled around them, fortifying Sarah's resolve. She could feel the power of their unity surging in her veins. They were fighting for more than a diner. They were fighting for their spirit, their history, and their family's .misses. Bennett, emboldened, stepped forward. You may think this is just a diner, but it holds generations of love, laughter, and stories. You can't just snuff that out. The warmth of unity thickened the air, enveloping them like a protective blanket. The corporate man's smirk faltered, and for a brief moment, doubt flickered across his gaze. This isn't just sentimentality, James interjected, his voice steady, determination blazing in his eyes. This is community, and we will fight for what's ours. As the words hung in the air, Sarah realized something profound. This wasn't just about keeping the diner. It was about the fabric of their lives, woven together in moments shared over cups of coffee and hearty meals that comforted their souls. The representatives exchanged glances, tension rippling through their polished postures. We'll consider your passion, one of them said, his tone wavering. But what assurance do we have that this isn't just a charade? Look around you, Sarah exclaimed, gesturing to the crowd as they began to cheer. This is not a charade, this is Maplewood. These are your neighbors, your friends, your families. We want to work with you, create a place that thrives. But it has to fit into the trusting, loving community we all cherish. A small ripple of uncertainty crossed the representatives' faces, and with every passing moment, the collective voice of Maplewood grew louder, bolder, insistent that they would not back down. For every question about how they would make this work, they had an answer born from commitment and community love. As people stepped forward to share their ideas, the concept transitioned from despair to possibility. Sarah could almost physically feel the shift in the air. Slowly, the representatives began taking notes again, some expressions betraying a flicker of hope. All right, let us explore, one of them began. Hesitantly, the crowd erupted in cheers again, their voices melding into a chorus of determination. A new chapter was born that day, a collaboration between heartfelt community spirit and the pragmatic demands of the corporate world. As night fell, the tables were cleared, the plates emptied, and laughter echoed into the darkening sky, illuminating the triumph over adversity that had unfolded. Later, as the last few stragglers began to leave, Sarah took a moment to breathe. Each smile, each hug exchanged, felt significant. They had not only gathered strength, but solidified bonds that would last forever. In that moment, as James joined her side and young Lily tugged at her sleeve wanting to share one last story, Sarah understood the true essence of what they had fought for. It wasn't just about the diner. It was about family, friendship, and community, a beautiful weaving of lives that would stand strong against any challenge, and in that realization, she felt at peace. They had built something solid, something that would shine bright even through the hardest storms. Life in Maplewood would go on, perhaps with bumps along the way, but they would face it together, always. If you loved this journey and want to see more inspiring tales that touch the heart, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Your clicks keep us going. Leave a like now to feed that algorithm, and comment below your experiences of hope and transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message. Together, let us inspire the world.